Here I go. Hey, everyone. Got a new streaming system, and it's a miracle that I even made it online. What's going on here? Looks like my empath group. Let me see. What is going on here? Okay, there's an issue. Of course there is. Okay. Do this. You know what? Okay, what's going on here? Hello, hello. I think we finally made it on. I had a little bit of an issue there. We set this up really early this morning. It's a miracle that I even made it on. I wanted to do a quick video on mirroring. Now, if you're new to logging on to any of my stuff, in order for your comments to show up, you actually have to click on where it says StreamYard and give your email. And then this way it will display who I'm speaking to. Can't post comments to some destinations. I don't know, but I'm going to, this is the first day using this. I make sure that it's working. Okay, look. All right, cool. All right. So I wanted to do a podcast or, again, video on mirroring because a lot of my people in the highly sensitive group have struggled a lot with their empathic skills. They don't know how to master their sensitivity. And so being that this is a support group, I wanted to have more talks on the highly sensitive person and overcoming sensitivity, learning how to master your psychic gifts, your spiritual gifts. A lot of highly sensitive people don't have an identity. And they don't have an identity because they're such sponges. When they're younger, they're very influenced, they're sensitive, they're taking in a lot of information. And a lot of information comes from, all our senses. So when you're young and you're taking in all this external stimuli, you're not really feeling yourself. You're letting your outside dictate. And this is really where mirroring comes from. Mirroring comes from when you start to adapt to the same personalities, get the same traits, have the same behaviorisms as the people that are around you. Now, sometimes it's a positive thing. It's a way that I think many people subconsciously try to connect to someone on a deeper level because it's, again, when you're mirroring a person, you're mirroring their habits, you're mirroring their gestures, you're mirroring their subtleties. You're not just mirroring their external. Now, the problem is when a highly sensitive person is not healed. If you're a highly sensitive person and you're not healed, what can happen is you will absorb other people's behaviorisms and habits, and then again, you mirror them back out at the person. So when we see an empath and a narcissist relationship over time, a lot of times empaths will say, well, am I the narcissist? And I think it's, again, a highly sensitive person is someone that's very in tune to other person's feelings. So they can get triggered very easily. And if we're triggered to be fearful of what's happening in our environment, well, then we're going to act out the same way that a narcissist does. A Heyoka is called the sacred clown, and that's the most powerful empath that there is. And it's the most powerful empath that there is because it's able to really read a person, intuitively feel what that person feels. The problem is, like I said, if we're not healed and if we don't have enough of our own identity, our own individuality, where we don't feel comfortable setting boundaries, what can happen is we again absorb. Hey, Facebook user, if you want to show who you are, all you and you want to be able to comment back and forth, you can still comment back and forth, but I won't know who you are. Now, if you want me to know who you are, and when there's a lot of people on, well, right now where there's nobody, that won't make a difference. But later on down the line, when I start doing these regularly, there'll be a lot of people on. So you might want to be able to show your name only because it's a lot easier to identify. So all you'll have to do is go up to where it says StreamYard and click on it, and it will ask you for your information. It's like it's a safety, it's for your privacy. A lot of times when, outside resources come in, like third parties, not everyone is agreeable to show, who I'm speaking to, and, they don't want their questions known. So I was talking about mirroring, but I wanted to pull some cards. I have a bunch of different decks here. I don't know if you're new to the group, welcome. I do psychic soul healing. So I tell people what their wounds are, what their psychological and spiritual blocks are that prevent them from manifesting. And it goes into family karma and it goes into a lot of different things. So how mirroring actually ties into that is, I was saying, as a highly sensitive person, we feel other people's feelings to the point that a lot of times we feel like they're our own, especially if that person has built an emotional bond with us. If we have an emotional connection with someone, we can really be emotionally manipulated if we're not healed. We see a lot of highly sensitive people give up their rights to what they want. Right. Yeah. What's your ongoing story is beyond belief. Is it about mirroring? Does it tie into what I'm talking about? About the mirroring? Like, because a lot of times, like a highly sensitive person, that's how it starts. It starts with someone projecting who they are onto us. And so again, I was talking about the Heyoka, and the Heyoka is considered a sacred clown, and it's called a sacred clown because it can mirror anyone's emotions and feelings and project them back onto a person. And the problem too is if you're someone that's gone through a lot of trauma and you're a highly sensitive person and you haven't healed that trauma, and healing it means really integrating it where you see a different version of your situation, then you can like relive the same ongoing, not the greatest story, because it's again, we're spiritual beings having human experiences. So do you have a question about mirroring? Do you want to know anything about mirroring or anything related to the topic? No, if not, I'm going to keep talking about, again, being a highly sensitive person and being like a sponge. We're sponges, which means we absorb energy. We let energy affect us. So one way to not mirror is to, ground, obviously, is to really get into the present moment, be in the moment, be in the now. Also, it's to be really like interactive with your community. Like healing is so essential if you're someone that mirrors or feels like you project all the time. Feel like I hear a lot of healers and a lot of sensitive people say that they get triggered all the time. And they get triggered all the time because they feel other people's emotions. They can read through the lines. And then what happens is they take on that energy and they project it back. You know, a highly sensitive person is someone that really absorbs emotion. So are you still there? No, if anyone's still there, I'm gonna have a drink and I'm gonna wait. I have these ginger red Living Well drinks, and they are pure gojo berry, and they come in these packets. It's really good for you. Essential oils. When you're a highly sensitive person, we tend to have a very sensitive immune system and nervous system. That's how we have that gift. So the thing is, it comes in this weird package. So yeah, you have to drink it like you're a kid without a sippy cup. All right, Tanya, I am so glad that you again are there. I shared this. It knocked me off for, oh, did it? Were you the Facebook user? I'm trying to figure out who the Facebook user was. I was talking about mirroring. And I wanted to talk about mirroring because as highly sensitive people, a lot of times we, are able. Oh, good. So what's your ongoing story? Is it about mirroring? I'm just curious. I don't know. I don't know if there's a delay or what, but I wanted to do a video about mirroring because someone in the group asked me about it. They said, "What about mirroring?" And the reason why it's a good topic is because mirroring creates a lot of trauma, and it creates a lot of psychological trauma because when we're younger and we're sensitive and no one teaches us about our sensitivity, we just again go out into the world and we are just being us, and we are taking in all this excess stimuli. And people can see the difference between a highly sensitive child and a non-highly sensitive child. So, well, and that's the same. That's about that. I'm pretty good at reflecting other energy right back at them. Well, I think that's again what highly sensitive people we do, because I mean, the non-healed highly sensitive person is going to call you out on every little thing, is going to, come from a place of fear. A highly sensitive person that's secure in themselves is going to be able to set boundaries, is going to be able to say a lot without saying anything at all, because our energy is really strong. And it's strong because again, there's a lot of psychic energy that a highly sensitive person can give off. We're electric people, we're emotional people. Now, that doesn't mean that every highly sensitive person is comfortable with their emotions. There's a lot of highly sensitive people that are very left-brained and linear and fact-wise, and they're very mechanical, and they're not comfortable expressing themselves. They're in verbal ways. So, but you can definitely tell what they think and what they feel through the energy that they give off. I think a highly sensitive person, when they're healed, they tend to have, I don't want to sound, and I know that I'm going to sound partial to it, but I think highly sensitive people tend to have better character than non-highly sensitive people, because highly sensitive people care about other people. They put other people usually before them. That's where mirroring comes into play. If you come to us, a lot of times people come to us and if they perceive us that we're weak, if they perceive us that we're shy, they perceive us that they can push us around somehow, then what happens is that they usually come across one or two things with a highly sensitive person. The unhealed, highly sensitive person that may go along with them again, or scream at them and yell at them and in fear, which it's still either one of those or fear-based consciousness, or the highly sensitive person that's very confident and is able to set boundaries, is able to I just feel like a lot of highly sensitive people are, they tend to be very detail oriented. They tend to look at the entire picture. That's why most of them were priestly advisors back in the day. So they can be gotten that when I am asleep, not that I don't see it coming, but I can not stop or project myself in my slumber. So what do you mean? Like you see someone coming in your sleep? I don't know what you mean. Like person wise, or are you talking spirit wise? Because I mean, mirroring has nothing to do with spirit, like spirit. And usually in our sleep, mirroring has everything to do with a person comes into your life and they're projecting their shit on to you. And then as a result, you mirror it back to them. And the person never sees that they're the one that was the problem. They never see that they were the toxic person. So that's why they're called the sacred clown. The sacred clown is originated from the Great Plains, and they provoke fear and chaos into like really cocky people that think that they have it all together. They tend to, by the way, be able to do things in their dreams, and they do get visions. But yes, in spirit now, like in the physical reality, like when you're saying like with spirit, I think that, and that's another thing, that when you're a highly sensitive person, there is, we are able to see through the veil. We're able to perceive energy just the same. And an example would be your dog. Your dog doesn't communicate with words, but your dog definitely communicates to you. So the way that my dog communicates to me, it's a language, how to read the language, is that everything communicates. Even an insect communicates. It may not be talking, but it may tap its little antler 3 times and it means something. They know that language. That's intuitive. So if you're asleep and you're not, a lot of people do protection things, and some people burn like a Palo Santo. What I have the Rose of Jericho, and the Rose of Jericho is what my woman that I used to see for a very long time. She was a Santarian woman. When I was younger, I was taught a lot of spiritual practices through her, and what she was very much into like learn the harsh stuff, learn the hard stuff, learn learn the really ugly stuff. Like don't just learn the spiritual stuff, because when you know the really ugly dark stuff, then you really know the light. Like you can't know one without the other. So she taught me a lot about this spirit, again, mediumship. Again, because in the beginning I was very Christian and I had a hard time, like, because I was always classified myself as more of a spiritualist. Yes, a psychic spiritualist that has mediumistic because I channel. But it's again, I wasn't putting it towards that mediumship. So first and foremost, you have to be open to that. At one time, I wasn't open to it. And I wasn't open to it because I was like, I don't see how it fits in. Now I see how it fits in because I see that I'm a trauma specialist, and a lot of people that cross over, they, if they have unfinished business here, it's it's not that God doesn't let anyone in. That's not, every soul has their free will, and they always have their free will. So even if a person commits suicide, it doesn't matter. It's like God still says Jesus died for everyone's sin. So everything was sin. Everybody was a sinner. So it doesn't matter. Like, it's like because Jesus already paid the price for it. So, but that doesn't mean that the spirit feels they're deserving to go home. Just like in life, we see people get stuck in life. And so we also know that certain times of the year, a spirit actually has a porthole that they can go home. Like we know during Shaman, the Halloween, the day that those 3 days are like a time that a spirit can come back and forth. So if you have to be open to it. So some people really believe in visualization and meditation. What they'll do is they visualize themselves before they go to sleep, like them closing themselves off, them again protecting, and they do a little ritual. Understand, a spirit can't do anything to you. You have to be welcoming to it. A lot of people, they play around, and they play around with Ouija boards, and they play around, they don't really know. And why that's dangerous is the same reason why psychic, and mediumship could be dangerous. It's because anything that you take the divinity out of is bad. So the work that I feel that I do is again based on like spirit, but it's again God. It's on it because it makes a person better. And so when you're dealing with something negative, obviously it's not, it doesn't, it wants to make things bad. And we can definitely feel and discern really easy something that's good from something that's bad. So, but what I do know is it's a choice. It is a choice whether or not you want to be open to spirit. And then there's a lot of people that do sacred rituals. Some people take baths. Some people, again, they welcome those people. It's again, they say, oh, I don't know what you're here. Like, I mean, if you, and I kind of feel like, Tanya, that would be something that you would be into. I kind of feel like you would be open to it. Be like, I don't really know why you're here. And that's scary. It's like, you're here, but I don't, what am I have to do with it? Why am I feeling this? Like, then your analytical mind gets in the way. And then that is what scares you, because you're like, what are you doing here? You're not supposed to be here. What am I supposed to be doing? Are you going to do something to me? And it's all that. So not having a contents of realizing what does it want, because a spirit can't hurt you. You have to be allowing of that. And if you're playing around with things that aren't protected, and that was the one thing that my friend Anna, again, that did Santeria all the time, she used to be like, I know that you don't really believe, because I didn't agree with her spell work. I don't agree. I agree in intention, and I believe that we all hold the divinity in ourselves, and that we all can create that, and that, like, whatever it is that we want to create, that I don't need to go and pay someone to kill a few chickens, to do a few whatever weird rituals to make something happen for me. So again, that's taking the divinity out of self. But I loved Anna. I didn't care. Like, again, I was able to see past the fact that, I didn't practice the same religion as her. I understood her philosophy, because when she would share, she would say, well, you know, Santeria is taken from the Old Testament, a lot of it. So, and yes, it was, but they get into a lot of weird stuff. So, like, they get into a lot of crazy stuff. So, where, like, again, I'm not bringing my goat anywhere, and I'm not bringing a statue, like a bunch of like, and I don't say anything like negative about it because I honored what she did, and I got comfort in some of the stuff that she did. I would say that I would be saying I was a liar if I said I never got a reading from her. I did. The only difference with her is she had a whole back room where she would concoct things. And so, but it's like anything else. You have to believe. You have to believe. Like they said in there's hoodoo and there's voodoo and there's again Santeria and all those that believe really in a lot of spirit work, they yeah, you have to believe it. If you didn't believe it, then no one could do it. Right. If allowed, like you have to allow it though. And those people in real life can curse learn. Yes, like I don't think. I think if you have to be open to it, you have to play around with it and be open to it. And then it's like anything else. If you were around someone that was really negative all the time, like hearing it all the time, and people that are mentally sick. I mean, there's also, I don't know if you've ever heard like parasites. There's parasites, there's attachments, there's cords, there's psychic cords, and people again they don't understand. There's a whole again that in the spiritual realm there are things. There are things that we don't see. We can feel them, and sometimes they feel like tinglies. And sometimes it feels like, again, like you're just connected to someone. And sometimes it's, again, it's a language. So, yeah, if a person doesn't have an identity and they're open and they don't believe in anything, right? So let's just say it's a lot more than just going to sleep, is what I'm trying to get at. Those spirits are not stronger than human beings. They have to go for mentally weak people. They have to go for people that would be a little imbalanced, such as like an alcoholic, like the attachments I'm talking about, like when like an attachment, something that they say is a spirit that latches on. It feeds off of, it's at a lower vibration. So that spirit that's not of a high vibration, because if it was of a high vibration, it would not be going after people. It would, again, it's going to go after a already weak person. Right. So there you go. And so you're not weak, but you're a little bit, again, being with someone that is an alcoholic is taxing on you, because on some level you're not getting what you need. And then you are kind of open to this. It's like, because you read and you're kind of into it, but again, are you strong within your faith? What are you doing to protect yourself? And listen, for a long time, I didn't do anything to protect myself. I didn't do nothing because I didn't believe it. I'm not going to lie. I didn't believe it. And then I would go to Casadega and I kept leaving there. Like I would leave and I would always have a stomach ache. And then I had other issues. But that could have been also because I wasn't drinking enough water. But I could feel the energy was really heavy. And then when I looked around at the people that worked there, it was, no one got along with anyone. There was no trust. So those spirit entities, that's why they were coming in. They were coming in because they're open. And the same way that you would be. So you would have to combat that. And you combat that by raising your vibration. And maybe, again, also by taking a mediumship course, or taking like and learning some protection things. But a lot of it is because you're there's that spirit feels that if it keeps on pushing at you, you know, that, oh, well, I feel like you're weak, I can break you down. But the truth of the matter is, at any point in time, you could be like, guess what? I am not weak, and this is who I am, you know? So I just think that that's why. But you would then surround yourself also with, it's not just like, again, taking a mediumship class, but it's also having more joy and passion in your life, having more fun in your life, loving your life. You have hit on so many keywords that I have said in my mind, at least, so you are still on path. Yes, and strong, right. And that's really what it is. I'm right. But I am wearing down. You're right. And that's what it is. You're wearing down. And that's so you have to protect yourself. You have to protect yourself. And you would protect yourself by understanding, learning more is, again, if you learn more, you realize, oh, if you're always stronger than a spirit. And when you stay close to God, again, that can't happen. The divinity in self makes that impossible. What you see now is a spiritual war. So we're continuously being bombarded by what's happening within the world, right? Everything that we watch on TV, the constant state of fear is, again, not keeping us in a high vibration. So we are not, the planet is not on a high vibration. And then we all have our own personal wars that are going on, right? And some of those personal wars are from karmic experiences that now maybe we lived out of balance and we have to pay it, or something's in our life is not working, but we're continuously compensating to kind of make it work. Eventually, that's not going to work. So it's because the whole point in the spiritual war is to realize that God comes again, but he comes again through the consciousness of man. So unless we stay close to God, but right now, right? So yeah, if you continuously learn and continuously like surround yourself in that in it doesn't need to be scripture, because I'm not sitting around reading the Bible. It's too difficult for me to read, to be honest with you. I hate all the long names. It's like, can you just make it a little simpler? Like, you lose me. Like, let me just watch a movie, It's just easier. But I surround myself in things that are divine. I know the word through the way that I just know it. I don't know it again the way that a preacher would know it, but it's like I cement myself in what I know. I continually try to learn. I make that part of my daily ritual. So and what I just see is, it's not just spirits don't come near you. You don't then have a problem with people. Yeah, see that? Synchronicity is everywhere. And you know what? I believe that a lot of times when alcoholics, they go into recovery, um, alcoholics, by the way, are a lot of times they just have so much emotion. They don't know how to process that emotion. And it's not, wouldn't be uncanny that, hey, here you are, someone that's an empath, a highly sensitive person, is with someone that, again, has a problem with their emotions. So they suppress them by drinking and by escaping and by doing those kind of things. So that's why, a lot of times when I would ask, well, what does the mediumship have to do with any of it? I never really didn't. And really what happens is that we inherit family karma. There's a lot of times unfinished business. There's a lot of trauma that goes around it. Really new, huh? That's funny, see? But that's what it is. It's synchronicity. It's synchronicity. And I'm so glad that at least someone came on, because I said, I kept trying to do a live stream for a while, and I am not tech savvy. So I want you to know I stayed up all night with some guy on Fiverr as he tried to like set this up for me. And, because there's so much that I feel like people can benefit from a community, right? A spiritual community about these kind of things, because one way to stay strong is not just through education, but it is connecting where you're like, how many times like I felt that, or we all need that. We all need that confirmation, like, oh, am I on the right track? Who knows? It's like I'm trying to feel my way, and who knows? And then we all a lot of times have fear too, because we have experiences that didn't really go the best due to our sensitivity, and then that's overstimulating. So it's a continuous thing. So I'm glad because that you showed up today, because it being that you showed up for me today, that was very helpful for me, because like I said, like it's going to take a while for me to build, and that's consistent. But what spirit always says, hi Nikki, what spirit always says is, when the student is ready, the teacher appears, and you're a magnet of who and what is supposed to come into your life. So that's what it is. It's like you heard the information when you needed to hear the information. It may be so close to a huge chance. I think many people are closed out. Yes, it's not personal, but there's a lot of people that are afraid of like looking deep inside of them. But inevitably, in order for us to evolve into these higher states of consciousness, and where, sorry, like to transcend those things, we have to dig deep within ourselves. Because guess what? They may not want to do whatever, but what I'm telling you that I see, we're living in spiritual times, and those spiritual times, whether you want to see it or not, karma is coming and it's collecting its due now, because collectively we wouldn't see what's happening in the world. We wouldn't see such a divide. We wouldn't see so many people out of jobs. We wouldn't see so many people homeless. We can see what's happening. We can see what, regardless of what people are telling us. So again, the spirit is that. So that's why I'm saying that everything that's happening, and highly sensitive people, I believe, have a higher calling. They have a mission. They have a mission mainly to help people, and that's through however they decide to do it, because they're able to tap in. And also, whatever trauma they've gone through, they're able to empathize on a deeper level and know exactly what the person needs because of the trauma that they went through. So a lot of us have already felt inadequate, already felt out of place, or already felt, because there was no education about being a sensitive person. There was no, if anything, you talked about what you just talked about with me 5 minutes ago, you would have been carted off to the Looney Tunes bin. Maybe they would have been like, you're talking about what? Is that possible? Which I don't understand. There are people that they're religious, but they don't, it's almost like they were just told that's devil stuff. Don't look at it. And so in the fact that people are not educated, and really, I think every single structure in society is somewhat corrupt, and it's corrupt mainly because it's run on money. Everything needs money to work, right? So over time, things become corrupt. I don't think that they start off that way. I think people do the best that they can do, but over time, things become, and I think that the Catholic Church is no different from that, the same way as I don't believe that our healthcare is different. I think that everything is made to benefit for financial gain. So we live in a society that is spiritually sick because it's conditioning us to think this way. to believe that this is normal, that we are supposed to, you know, put things and before people, that people don't have identities anymore, they don't have connections, they don't trust people anymore. And so you're seeing a lot of people not even have an identity because of it, because they're like, oh, well, I don't know, it seems that, when I've been dating for a long time and now I don't know, I don't know anything anymore, I don't even know my gender anymore. And it's because there's so much confusion. Now, I'm not saying that for every single transgender person. What I'm saying is there's a, like, how did we go from a society that might have had 20 to 30% of people that were like that to now 50-50, like overnight? And it's not all because everyone thinks that they're gay or transgender. I'm telling you, it's not. I'm telling you, it's because people, again, don't feel connected to, like, and have trust. They're creating an identity from from your outer world. Not everybody, but there are some. And so, like, and that's what makes it tricky too, because again, some people just are that way, is that their choice and they were there. And I'm not saying that is bad or good or any which way. I'm not. I have no judgment. What I'm saying is that over time, when people can't make their life work, because look, the world is telling us that you can't afford to go to work, you can't afford to put food on your table. I mean, so many people are struggling. When you turn on the TV, this is what you hear. When you turn on the TV, you see that crime is rising. So everything that's happening within our world, it creates fear. So they're like, oh, it's creating this shift. Well, it can create a negative shift too if people are not evolved enough. So if I'm walking around and I have all this trauma and I haven't done anything about it and I'm highly sensitive, and I'm going to go around mirroring everybody, right? Because again, that's what highly sensitive people do. They absorb and then they tend to project back on, and they don't mean to do it. A lot of times it's all unconscious, because again, they connect through also doing the same thing by picking up traits and their similarities and body gestures and everything. There's a whole language that happens without a word being spoken. And so when people are becoming so disconnected from, again, I don't trust, and they're focusing so much on their outer, they again have gone so far away from themselves, so they don't know what they feel. And like I said, we wouldn't see all this imbalance happening in the world if if the world wasn't corrupt. We see that the world is, again, and the reason why is because the world evolves around money, and again, and things. So the more money that you have, it's almost like the better life you have. So of course and then us as a society has put people in classes, and unfortunately people get put in classes as young as in grammar school, mainly if you inherited a certain financial bracket from your family. So a person, in order to even form their own identity, they have to rise above, like, what society is telling them. And that's not even talking about their immediate family. That's a whole other, we're taking it to a different level, because your immediate family is the most difficult, because that's who has the power to emotionally manipulate. Those are the people that have the power to influence us the most. So if they don't have our best interest at hand, then what happens? And or if a person in our family is imbalanced because maybe again they lost their job, or God forbid they got sick. Not all the time do people go out of their way to, like, to Trauma happens, behaviorisms happen from that trauma. And so what the normal thing to do is that everyone comes in and helps out. But then what I see is that so many people are looking for help. They don't even know how to create their own life. They don't know how to support themselves. They don't know how to take care of themselves. So no one, these are basic things. And but is it basic when we're talking about how much a house costs, how much a car costs, how much your groceries cost, how much everything costs? Is it such a basic thing? Well, at one point it was a basic thing, but a lot of people didn't work and they gave up that right. So now what we see is it's even harder. And it's even harder for those people that didn't do it because God bless it. I have a few friends that I love them to death, but they do not like to work. They do not want to work. They go from job to job to job to job to job. And, they ask for advice. I give them the advice. They don't like the advice because the advice is always, there's no easy way out. There's no easy way out. When you have a root chakra imbalance and you have money issues, you got to hit the pavement. You got to again create it. If you got to make something happen because what you're seeing is that you're not supported. So the whole not under having any spiritual knowledge about how your body works, how your spirit works, how to navigate your life successfully in modern world is a huge part because again we live in imbalance and no one tells us, hey, you just were in a toxic relationship for a year. Well, guess what, you kind of need to rehabilitate your brain. You kind of need to again see yourself in a different light. You have to kind of recreate yourself a little bit. People don't know where to start, and then they get stuck and pigeonholed into believing that, well, this is as good as it gets. And they compensate. And if we have the divinity in self, then God says we're not supposed to like compensate our life. We're not supposed to abandon our life. Yes, that is probably why so many things are in the position. The door has been opened up. Well, that's the thing. There has been like the door has been opened up, but what we see is that people they like to talk a lot like of spirituality. It's like the new fad, it's like the new thing to do. It's like I look on Instagram and I see like I know some like again that even live where I live, and I know that they don't do any clients at all because they talk to my friend that says, I haven't done a client in so long, but here they are, every single picture of them like they have nothing but pictures all over and it looks really fancy and it looks pretty and it looks nice, but there's no substance behind their work. It's like you haven't done the healing that you're trying to sell to other people. Like I see a lot of that, like people trying to skip, and that's not the way that it works. Let me tell you something. I was a psychic up in New York for over 20 years. And at first I did it behind the chair, hair salon, and then I just wound up doing it. And yes, I got clients over time, but it was slow in the beginning because I had to find my style, the gift of style, because we all have our own style. And it's a learning process and you want to do what everyone else does. So while my friends were using cards, I wanted to use cards. Cards were hard for me because I'm a psychic where again I channel. I don't need cards. It's like cards, I have ADHD. So I had to learn a system that wasn't happening. So again, it was a little bit bumpy again in accepting like my trait. And thankfully, as I have been on my journey, I've been forced to heal, but I'm not in charge of my journey. See, that's the thing. When you are really awakening, it means that you're awakening to your true self. But that also means that you have to listen to the God that's inside of you. And a lot of times, the God inside of you is going to bring you to things and situations that you're not going to want to do, or don't think that you can do because you have fear. So no one would volunteer to do any of it unless you were really passionate about what it is that you love, right? Look at you. You're in a marriage. You love your husband. That's why you're there. It's like, it's unconditional love. And what we do that's unconditional love is really a passion a lot of times. And so that is what helps you get through the hard times. The connection to the spirit, to God, which is through the co creation process. And that's only through the grounding process, which is that you're in your body and you're really having a love affair with yourself, and then you're finding yourself because you're uncovering yourself, like who you are. And are you brought to things that you don't think you could do? Absolutely. Are you afraid? Absolutely. But that's the whole point. You should be afraid. You should find it challenging, but you should find it more passionate than fearful. The fear should never override the passion. And the truth of the matter is, people don't have a passion. They weren't allowed to have an identity. Because you have to say, a lot of people went off to school and they were like, you have to do this, this, this. And that's not really what did at the school, but school does teach you how to think like a certain way, which it wasn't able to teach me how to think that way. But the majority of people, again, they pick it up and they go off to do amazing things because they have education, because their brain is able to be molded and trained. And that's great because then they can make a lot of money. Where, that's God says that's one way. And yes, it works, but it's a very boring way too. And it's very like predictable, and it's very, and where that's not the way that I do things. It's again, I live my bliss, and a lot of times I'm walking with the divine. Like it's again, I'm being brought to situations that I don't really feel like I do. I have a hard time doing, and I kind of like a lot of times lie and say I could do it before I actually know how to do it, and then just kind of learn as I go. Like, I'm one of those people. You know what I mean? We got two different types of people in the world. We got people that do things the correct way. We got people that do things the way that I do them, which is, kind of a little half-assed. But we kind of can make things happen still because it doesn't stop me. My left brain doesn't get in the way and say, oh, that's not going to happen, or you can't happen. It's more like I realize that I can create anything. The issue comes mastery comes in doing. So then there's a grounding part that has to be done. Now you're engaging in my well, that's because I have that behavior. It's like I hate the taste of alcohol. I hate the taste, but if it's again, alcoholism, like the drink is one symptom. I was an alcoholic. I didn't drink though. I was brought up in a family that there was alcoholism in the family. And as a highly sensitive person, like I was not allowed to express my feelings or emotions. They went ignored. It was not something that my parents were okay with. So it was something that I had to, again, stifle it. So I suppressed in other ways. It's not like I did escapism in other ways. I just didn't drink. But that's why I'm describing your husband, because it's my personality. That's my personality. I mean, I'm on the path to healing, but it's a process. You know what I mean? It's a process that I wouldn't have spiritual gifts. You get spiritual gifts from, integrating spiritual wounds. That's the way that it's done. So do you have any questions? Do you have any questions? You want me to pull some cards for you? Look at that. I'm live. It says that I'm live. So where is everybody? And Spirit says, you have to be consistent. It's like, that's really what it is. Let's just pull some cards and just see what happens. I love to use my Psychic Soul Healer cards mainly because because they talk about the psychological and emotional aspects of ourselves. And then what I like to do is I like to like pull the spiritual triggers, like the relationship triggers. Let's see whether or not that they come out for you. Let's play some cards and some hidden truths for you. How about that? We can do that, and we can do what the wounds are, and then we can do twin flame soulmate cards, which soulmate cards. We can figure out why you're still with your husband, Tanya. No, I'm only kidding. Like, we can find out what the spiritual connection is here, and just for fun, why not, right? Let's see, right? Right? I know. Come on, this is not really like that anything bad's gonna happen. It's more like, again, that's the spiritual things. What does Tanya need to know, Spirit? We want to know. Well, 2 cards came out. Detachment. So detachment and dark night of the soul. So I feel like, I feel like your husband definitely is someone that would be detached. I also feel like you could be detached. That's why, again, you're intuitive. I know I can be detached too. It doesn't mean that we're not warm and loving and this and that, but we have the power to be detached, because you wouldn't be able to be with someone that was detached. That's the way that works. I also think is cute. For somebody going through a dark night of the soul around you, maybe you felt like you went through a dark night of the soul. Oh, there you go. So detachment. I believe that understand over time, detachment definitely affects intimacy. No doubt it affects intimacy. And it affects intimacy because it's trust. If a person is detached, there's part of them that you say, well, where are they detached from? It's that they're escaping, and they're escaping because they don't really like their life. So they may be in fantasy. They may be physically there, but they are no longer there. And over time, the person, what you see is the detachment is that person can't really show up for you. So it could be like a birthday or a holiday or something, and they just can't show up for you. And it's because, again, they have a hard time expressing and feeling emotions. But I feel like your husband deals with depression. I feel like there's that somebody is dealing with depression. They're going through that. I also wanted to look at and understand that is why, by the way, well, he had a stroke 11 years ago. So his health, his heart is shut. Not uncommon for alcoholics, by the way. Again, alcoholics are not trying to feel. They don't want to feel. Right, and I'm sure that they did. So that's why, again, it's like deep depression is what I felt like this person is like in a dark night. So dark night of the soul is like horrible place to be, because it's like you're looking at your life. You're looking at your life and you're realizing that a large part of the reasons, obviously, that your life isn't going well is because of your choices. And then you're looking around at the people in your life, and I'm sure like he looks at his marriage with you and he feels bad because he's like, oh, it started off so great and now look at where we are. And then I think that, with everybody else that he should have been present for, he wasn't as much present for. So there's a lot of, again, being stuck in the past. People that go through a dark night of the soul, they avoided the past. They were avoiding the present because they were detached. And then what happens is it's almost like a house of cards, like a tower. And the tower for your husband was his stroke. And the second time, and that's because it debilitated his body. It debilitated him. And he no longer felt masculated. He no longer felt like a man. Like there was a sense of him not feeling good. So again, which that's what happens with the dark night of the soul. It kind of tears us down and it really makes us humble, because what it's doing is it's showing us where we need to heal in our life. And I don't think that your husband did a lot. Let's see what the wounds are. Consumed, no emotional space available, intense and overwhelming, release the drama. So it's again like your person, your husband, again, I feel like is like consumed. And if they're consumed, it means that they're never present because you're like stuck in the past. And that's what I said before. And that's exactly what I felt. And so that your person can't be like emotionally there if they're consumed with guilt and pain. So remember, part of shadow healing is, we have to look at those traumas. And so your husband would have to turn around and look at like his marriages and see where it didn't work out. He would have had to look at like certain things and made real significant changes. And now I feel like he feels like he's too old. So it's almost like just consumed with being stuck in the past because, well, I'm too old and there is no future. And then distracted, checking out of reality, suffering from overwhelm. So it's again, this is like that distracted where again, I felt like the person's just not up in their head. He's just not present anymore, rather, like, because it's continually like looking at what's not working out. Yeah, that's why I said his other marriages. That's why I said that. It's like because that's what he's stuck in the past about how he can't make it work like with anybody, like that he's the problem, that he didn't want to look at his problems when he was in the marriage. So again, over time, what he did was he shut his heart off because it never worked out. He didn't realize that when you're an alcoholic, you're not emotionally there. You can't connect because you're numbing yourself. You hate part of yourself pretty much. So what you're doing is you're trying to suppress it. And then over time, that suppression becomes repression. And then what happens is it shows up as physical issues. Like my father had gout, and he had that arthritis that made his hands look like that. It was like bone over bone, rheumatoid arthritis, very painful. He had cancers. Again, he was suppressing it, and that's what alcoholics do. They don't. They detach, and that's what they're saying. That person is consumed. It's again consumed with like things that he can't control because you can't go backwards. And it's again distracted, checking out of reality. It's like where, like I said, this person's in a dark night of the soul. That's how that card opened up. It was like, wow, is depressed, and it's depressed mainly because of that. And then the irony is, I feel like every now and again, if you deal with him, like he will either be depressed or he can be like self-righteous. Like he can go from like, again, kind of having a little bit of an ego. So which would make it kind of difficult for you to like talk to him. And that's another part of like alcoholism. When a person doesn't want to look at their wounds, they don't want to take responsibility for their stuff. The brain's funny. What it'll do is the same way that it doesn't want to hear, like, like when you hear your voice on an answering machine, you're like, that's not my voice. Like, my husband said that the other day. He was like, oh my God, that's not me. It's like, yeah, that's you. What happens is that your brain is like, oh, I don't like the sound of that. Let me make it look prettier. So it kind of like puts a filter, the same way that sometimes I'm like, oh, I don't like that picture of me. Let me like enhance it a little bit. Well, your brain does that and says, let me enhance that a little bit. And so what happens with an alcoholic is if it wasn't allowed to show emotions at one time, whether it's a girl or a guy. A lot of times it wasn't allowed. And took on that persona of being so strong. And then what happens is the brain doesn't want to look at how it continued to do certain things. So what happens is that, that all the behaviors become suppressed. The person doesn't realize it. They're actually like asleep. So part of awakening is that, the dark night of the soul that your husband went through, the strokes, the divorces, those were all like, hey, you're going the wrong way. Hey, you're going the wrong way. But he was asleep and he was self-righteous during that time. So it didn't mean that your husband didn't love you, and your husband does love you. That's the whole thing. It's like, that's what it looks like. And God says that's why it's more of a psychic connection with you and him. There is love, but there's also a lot of pain. And there's also a lot of pain but not really because of what you did. It's this person came into the situation, had these wounds, but you also had them. You grew up without emotional support. You grew up without really feeling supported. You, again, as a highly sensitive person. So you kind of recreated it. And that's why it's like a spirit like that you didn't feel was like of a high vibration is like around you. You're like, why the hell is this shit? And the reason why is because, like you said, it's wearing you down. But you can easily do a few rituals. But what's most important, Tanya, what's most important is, again, join things, do things, connect with people deeply. It's like you're a deep person. You're a kind person. It's be interactive, find love. Like, you can't change your husband by being there and fixing it and trying to do. You change yourself, that automatically changes your husband. You want to inspire someone, you, again, walk that walk. Because a lot of people think, oh, it can never happen. But when you do it and you create yourself, you're showing your daughter at any time, like, look, at any time you can pick up and become somebody else. And it doesn't mean that you leave your husband behind, but the emotional support that you're not getting, well, there's other ways that we get passion. And I'm going to tell you, because my husband got hit by a cab 8 years ago, and I have not been intimate with anyone in all that time. And that was my path. And Spirit was like, that's your path. It's, again, you can choose to be faithful and put your focus in on growing yourself, growing your career. And when he passes, you walk into a new life, or you can be a low life and run around and look for the answer outside of yourself. The choice is yours, but you got ADHD. So again, don't try and be in a relationship and try and learn at the same time, because that's not going to happen for you. So understand, I've created a way that's best for you. Now, does that mean that I like that way all the time? No. But God says, it's, again, you get a lot. And I have no regrets, because I love my husband, because I get a lot from me. Like, what I realize is that I made my cup so full, Tanya. My cup is so full that no one gets to drink out of my cup. They get whatever is overflowing from my cup, but they never get to drink out of my cup, because I have so much that if you leave, if you're gone, well, with my husband, I'll be devastated. I'd be like, because he was my best friend. He is my best friend. He has helped me become who I am. He is my mother, my father, my husband, my best friend. He's everything rolled up into one person, because there's a big age difference. Because, again, when I met him, because, again, the dynamic of our relationship, how he helped me at my weakest, then I helped him at his weakest, because he got hit by a cab and he has other issues now. So it's like that I'm the one that's doing it, and it's empowering to me. It's like everything's the way that we look at it. But if I didn't come from, again, such a hard upbringing, I wouldn't be able to look at life that way. But what I will tell you is, you make your life full, because there's what'll happen is that will create an energy, that will create a synergy, that will create a life on top of the life that you already have. And it won't take from your life unless you want it to take from your life. But it's also a way that you can command the people that want to be like this in your life. They won't act like that because it's, again, you won't be around. You won't be around. You won't tolerate it. And that's the thing. He doesn't want that. Trust me. He just, again, has not really learned how to, there was no spiritual help. It's not like anyone like sat there and was like, hey, this is what you need to do. It's like this person, felt like there was something wrong with them for a long time. I want to see what your soulmate twin flame messages. I want to actually see what the triggers are first. Let's see what the triggers are for you. Let's see what the triggers are for you. I had enough of the lies, deceptions, and dishonesty. I will find out about it one way or another. This was you. It's like and I feel like it with people that drink, that's what it is. It's like, so that's what created the little like intimacy issue within your situation. But just because there's that doesn't mean that there's no love. What it means is it's again that there's situations from the past that really never will work through, which is very common for an alcoholic. Okay, I'm afraid to open up to anyone. I've been hurt too much in this past. I don't know how to trust again. So that's where your husband is. So he needs counseling. And what your spirit message is before I sign off. I'm going to sign off soon. But we're going to see what your twin flame message is. Incarnation together to clear. Look at this, Tanya. This is for you for sure. This is your sign. We incarnated together to clear specific patterns from an ancestral bloodline. So, and that's what I was saying before. So this is your card. I hope that you see this. I'm going to have to take a picture of it so you see it. And I'm going to end it off on this. Thank you, Tanya, for joining today. Like I said, this is your card, though, to understand that what the spiritual connection, the karmic connection between you and your husband is. We incarnated together to clear specific patterns from our ancestral bloodline. That is deep because it's, again, I'm sure part of what you're clearing is blocks to self-love, blocks to a lot of other things. So, I mean, it was good. Thank you so much for joining. And like I said, did you see this? Did you see that this is your card? Well, I think that you need to start doing healing work. I think that you should take some. Look into Meetup. All right, guys. Thanks for whoever watched. But thank you, Tanya. I'll talk to you soon.